Book cover, and Tango Makes Three by Justin Richardson and Peter Parnell. Illustrated by Henry Cole. An illustration of two adult penguins cuddled up with a small, feathered baby penguin in front of them. The screen splits. On the left is the picture previously described. On the right, Linden, a young man in front of a green screen, wearing a black shirt, signs, using American Sign Language to tell the story. The illustration is split into three sections. Top left, a building with a door opening shows a carousel horse. A gray-haired woman is holding hands with two young children, each of whom have a balloon in their other hand. Top right, a pond's edge with the city skyline in the background. A child in a hat plays with toy sailboats. Bottom right, a winter scene shows a large group of people ice skating on a rink. The city buildings rise behind them at the edge of a park. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. In the middle of New York City, there is a great big park called Central Park. Children love to play there. It has a toy boat pond where they can sail their boats. It has a carousel to ride on in the summer and an ice rink to skate on in the winter. A brick structure with three arches. On top is a clock and several medium-sized animal sculptures. Several families' backs are shown as they walk into the zoo. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Best of all, it has its very own zoo. Every day, families of all kinds go to visit the animals that live there. A rainforest setting with toucans, other birds, and small monkeys. On the left, small pictures among the text show a baby and parent red panda, toad, and tamarin families. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. But children and their parents aren't the only families at the zoo. The animals make families of their own. There are red panda bear families, with mothers and fathers and furry red panda bear cubs. There are monkey dads and monkey moms raising noisy monkey babies. There are toad families and toucan families and cotton-top tamarin families too. A rocky structure. Penguins stand in couples. Some are on the rocks. One couple is swimming. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. And in the penguin house, there are penguin families. Penguin couples on rocks, performing a mating ritual. The penguins on the right bow to their partner on the left. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Every year at the very same time, the girl penguins start noticing the boy penguins, and the boy penguins start noticing the girls. When the right girl and the right boy find each other, they become a couple. Two penguins, Roy and Silo, look each other in the eye. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Two penguins in the penguin house were a little bit different. One was named Roy, and the other was named Silo. Roy and Silo were both boys, but they did everything together. The page is split into 4 sections. Top left, two penguins, Roy and Silo, bow to each other. Top right, Roy and Silo walk together, sides touching. Bottom left, Roy and Silo, beaks open, singing to each other. Bottom right, Roy and Silo, swimming underwater. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. They bowed to each other and walked together. They sang to each other and swam together. Wherever Roy went, Silo went too. A man in shorts and a shirt, vest and boots kneels in the penguin's enclosure. He holds a bucket. Penguins approach him in couples. The man looks over at a penguin couple with their necks wound around each other. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. They didn't spend much time with the girl penguins, and the girl penguins didn't spend much time with them. Instead, Roy and Silo wound their necks around each other. Their keeper, Mr. Gramsay, noticed the two penguins and thought to himself, they must be in love. The page is split in 4. Two penguins, Roy and Silo, with rocks in their mouths, are shown progressively building a nest from rocks. In the final picture, they sit together in the nest. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Roy and Silo watched how the other penguin made a home. So they built a nest of stones for themselves. Every night, Roy and Silo slept there together, just like the other penguin couples. On the left, two penguins, Roy and Silo, look to the right where penguin couples look down at baby penguins in their nests. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. And every morning, Roy and Silo woke up together. But one day, Roy and Silo saw that the other couples could do something they could not. 3 penguin families, each 2 parents with a small baby penguin in a nest. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. The mama penguin would lay an egg. She and the papa penguin would take turns keeping the egg warm until finally it would hatch. And then there would be a baby penguin. Roy and Silo look at their nest made of rocks. The middle is empty. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Roy and Silo had no egg to sit on and keep warm. They had no baby chick to feed and cuddle and love. Their nest was nice, but it was a little empty. Top center, a penguin, Roy, walks towards another penguin, Silo. Roy has a rock in his mouth. Bottom. 3 pictures in sequence show Silo, a penguin sitting on a rock nest. He looks down. Sitting on the nest, he looks to the right. He looks down again. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. One day, Roy found something that looked like what the other penguins were hatching, and he brought it to their nest. It was only a rock, but Silo carefully sat on it, and sat. Top left. Pictures show time progressing. Silo sits on a nest, eyes closed. Roy looks at the rock he is sitting on. Top middle. Silo sits alone, eyes closed. Top right. Silo looks down. Bottom pictures. Silo, eyes closed, holds his head, yawns, leans, sleeping. Roy steps behind him. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. And sat. When Silo got sleepy, he slept. And when Silo was done sleeping and sitting, he swam and Roy sat. Day after day, Silo and Roy sat on the rock. Roy and Silo, two penguins, look at their nest. A rock sits in the middle. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. But nothing happened. A man sits at a desk looking out his office window to the penguin enclosure. He sees Roy and Silo, two penguins, looking down at their nest. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Then Mr. Gramsay got an idea. A hand places an egg in a nest made of rocks. Two penguins stand behind and watch. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. He found an egg that needed to be cared for, and he brought it to Roy and Silo's nest. Two penguins, Roy and Silo, stand next to their rock nest in front of a rocky background. The nest has an egg in the middle. They are smiling. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Roy and Silo knew just what to do. They moved the egg to the center of their nest. Every day, they turned it so each side stayed warm. Some days, Roy sat while Silo went for food. Other days, it was Silo's turn to take care of their egg. Picture from above. Roy and Silo, two penguins. One sits on the egg in their nest. The other sits to the right, looking at him. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. They sat in the morning and they sat at night. They sat through lunchtime and swim time and supper. They sat at the beginning of the month, and they sat at the end of the month, and they sat all of the days in between. Roy and Silo at their nest. One sits on an egg. Peep is seen coming from the egg. The other adult penguin looks down at the egg, his wings out behind him. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Until one day, they heard a sound coming from inside their egg. Peep, 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 it said. Roy and Silo called back. Squawk, squawk. Peep, peep, answered the egg. A series of 12 images shows an egg hatching. It is whole, then cracked more and more progressively until a baby bird's head emerges out of the egg. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Suddenly, a tiny hole appeared in the egg's shell, and then an egg cracked in half with a light, fluffy baby bird with a black beak. The word crack appears above its head. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Crack! Out came their very own baby. She had fuzzy white feathers and a funny black beak. Now Roy and Silo were fathers. We'll call her Tango, Mr. Gramsay decided, because it takes two to make a tango. Roy and Silo, two penguins with their baby penguin, Tango. One adult penguin on the left leans down, beak open, smiling at the baby, his wings back. The other on the right smiles, eyes closed. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Roy and Silo taught Tango how to sing for them when she was hungry. They fed her food from their beaks. They snuggled her in their nest at night. Tango was the very first penguin in the zoo to have two daddies. A penguin exhibit, a crowd of children and adults looking through the glass. Many penguins stand on the rock enclosure. 3 penguins swim in the water. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. Soon Tango grew strong enough to leave the nest. Roy and Silo took her for a swim, just like all the other penguin families. And all the children who came to the zoo could see Tango and her 2 fathers playing in the penguin house with the other penguins. "Hooray, Roy! Hooray, Silo! Welcome, Tango!" they cheered. A family of 3 penguins cuddled together as the sun sets. The screen splits. On the left, the previously described picture. On the right, Linden signs using American Sign Language. At night, the 3 penguins returned to their nest. There they snuggled together, and like all the other penguins in the penguin house, and all the other animals in the zoo, and all the families in the big city around them, they went to sleep. The end.